The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey, everybody, how you doing? This is Rich. We're here for our tactical marketing call, and it's an interesting subject. It's called Publicity Stunts. And you know what? This is something that we've just not really ever covered before. We've covered some sort of related topics, and you'll see that these two topics are going to kind of interrelate today even. The two topics, one being publicity stunts, the others being demonstrations, and they do kind of overlap because sometimes you can take your demonstration and make it into a publicity stunt. What we're not going to talk about today is elaborate things that take massive, huge budgets and so forth. You've probably heard of publicity stunts. I'll show you some of the ones that are maybe a little more well-known, well-orchestrated. But the idea here today really is to get you some ideas of some things you can do to get maybe a little bit outside of your comfort zone, do some things to get you some attention, get some mentions perhaps in the media, and to really just spark your creativity. Sometimes we get so enamored with our business and what we're doing, and we get bogged down in the details, and we've got to get the ads out, and we've got a radio campaign, and we need to cut the next ads, and we've got to get our next newspaper ad, and we got a show coming up, we've got to get ready for that. And we sometimes forget that we can do some other things as well. And that's kind of what we're talking about today. So don't take today's webinar as, hey, here's a prescriptive idea of things that you should do step by step. That's not really how this one works today. The way that this one works is, here's some ideas, take and think about this, and always, as you're going through these webinars, hopefully what you're doing is you're thinking with a backdrop of your business in mind. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look. This is a friend of mine, a guy named Troy Dunn. I've known Troy for about 6 or 7 years now, something like that, maybe a little bit longer. Anyway, Troy is a guy who has an interesting claim to fame. He got his start by accident. He was his mother was adopted, and he set out when he was a young man, around, I don't know what age, I think maybe early 20s, to find his mother's biological mother. She had been adopted. She didn't know who her real mother was, and she wanted to know. So he went out and he found her, and he figured out some things about finding people that were very unique, and he had an ability to find people. As you can see on this picture here, he's got the mother and the baby, and they're ripped apart, and he is a guy that knows how to put them together. So he ended up starting a business helping people to find long-lost loved ones, whether they were children that were adopted out and reuniting siblings later on in life. A lot of his work has to do with adoptive parents finding the children finding the parents. So he started a business doing this, and he had him and a buddy, and they were making pretty good go at it and making a little bit of money. It wasn't that big of a deal. And he got a phone call. Somebody had heard about him, and he got a phone call from the Montel Williams show. This dates back to, I guess, the late 80s or early 90s, something like that. And they said, hey, we'd like you to come on our show, unite somebody, and we'll talk about it, and it'll be an interesting thing. And, of course, he said, man, that's great, we'll do it. So he goes on the show, and they have very strict guidelines on that show at the time, and I'm sure still on similar kinds of shows, where you are not allowed to promote your business when you're a guest on those shows. You can't give your web address, and in those days they didn't have a website, but you can't give your web address, you can't give your phone number. It has to be given by the host, if anything. Well, long story short, when he was on the Montel Williams show, they were so enamored with him that they actually put his phone number on the screen and said, if you'd like help with this, call this number. Well, they got back to their office, and they had two phones. This is an old-style small business. They had two phones. They had the old-style ring, like the phone actually rings like a bell, and it was two lines, and him and his partner picked up the phone, and they would answer these calls nonstop for 3 days. As soon as they would put the phone down, literally, it would ring again with 0 seconds of lapse. It was just crazy, the outpouring for this service that he had. Well, he went on to be a guest host, not a guest host, do guest appearances on every talk show you can imagine, from Oprah Winfrey to Montel, of course, and everything in between. He ended up doing a reuniting of Barbara Walters and Barbara Walters' mother or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but he was on everything. He knows everybody. I ended up meeting this guy after he was well established in all of that, and we got to talking about business and other things, and he made this comment to me that I think is interesting and worthwhile. Now, all of this story is building up to this point, and I want you to take this point not necessarily at face literal value, but I want you to think about it, and I want you to kind of keep it in mind as you look at your business. Now, let's think about reality television for a minute. Reality television has been in swing for probably about 10 or 12 years. There's always been some kind of reality stuff, but the full-blown genre of reality TV, I think Survivor really got it started, and now we've got, goodness gracious, every imaginable reality show that fits every single niche. I mean, my wife and I were flipping channels, and we accidentally saw some show about the world's greatest tattoo artist, and they had to do tattoo challenges and different types of tattoos, and they got sent home every week. And you've got all the cooking shows and all this different kind of stuff. Well, here's where I'm going with this. Here's what Troy Dunn told me. He said, any business can be a TV show. And he says, think of your business as something that can be produced into a television show. What do you do? What is interesting about your business that could be produced into a TV show? Now, again, I told you to not think about that question literally, because I don't know that it's maybe practical or your style or whatever for you to literally make your business into a TV show. But it's an interesting question to get you to think about your business and say, well, what is it about our business that's interesting and unusual? What could we do to make a TV show? And again, hopefully you're hearing me loud and clear. I'm not telling you to make a TV show out of your business. I'm telling you to look at your business from the angle of what's interesting about it that that people would want to see. What could we do? And I know that your immediate response is, well, nothing, because we're just an accountant, and who wants to see a TV show about accountants? Well, there's some interesting TV shows out there. Does anybody watch Storage Wars? And I mean, they've got all kinds of crazy things out there, so it's in the realm of possibility. In fact, Troy Dunn, after I met him and got to know him a little bit, he went on to star in a TV show called The Locator, and this picture that I had first put on there was a promo, and then you can see here on the one on the top, that's his TV show, The Locator. It appeared on the WE channel for, I think, something like 7 seasons, and every week he'd unite people, and you really didn't want to watch that show with anybody that you wanted to think you were a big, strong man, because you'd watch that show, and without fail, you would cry like a baby, because it was very sweet and touching. So anyway, with that as kind of a backdrop, think of your business as a TV show. Think in terms of interesting things. Think in terms of publicity that could be had for your business. And the idea here is to not say, okay, well, there's the webinar, now go think stuff up. The idea is to now say, okay, with that as a backdrop, let's go through a few ideas. And this is not meant to be exhaustive. It's not meant to be comprehensive. It's simply some ideas that you can think in terms of your business. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look. What is a publicity stunt? You probably know this. It's a planned event designed to attract the public's attention, garner media attention, right? Let's talk about the difference between PR and publicity stunts. And I don't know that we necessarily need to make a huge distinction here. PR is anytime we do something that we want the press, or the press is willing or interested in covering. A lot of times the press would be interested in covering things that are not necessarily a stunt, but a publicity stunt is something that's manufactured and engineered to get attention specifically, with the idea that, hey, we're going to get some publicity out of this. Now, as we go through this webinar, don't get caught up in the media side of this thing. Don't get caught up in the, hey, it has to be covered by the Channel 5 News for it to be successful. If something can just be noticed, if it can be something that's interesting, that's going to be worth something. Now, ideally, though, we will have something that is covered by the media, something that the newspapers on a local level. A lot of you operate local businesses, so some of that local newspaper coverage could be very useful. If it's a bigger market, getting the TV out there, maybe radio, who knows. Typically, a publicity stunt is going to be more outlandish, a little bit more unique and unusual than just straight publicity, okay? So let's look at the point of a stunt or any publicity. It's twofold. Number one, whatever immediate attention it can get you, either with individual people or people that see it on TV or on the newspaper or wherever, but then after that, it still has a lot of value, the ability to use the media coverage for years to come in the rest of your marketing efforts. So if you pull off a media stunt, you may not have a huge uptick immediately of business. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but at least you've got something that you can point to, put on your website, and reference for as long as you want to. Things don't die on the internet. That's good in this case. In a lot of cases, that's bad. I mean, maybe you want some stuff on the internet to go away. Who knows? But think about this in twofold. Any publicity, and particularly publicity stunts, the immediate attention you get, that's good. The bigger play is being able to use that and broadcast it and show it to people at a future time, whether it's your website or sales presentation or whatever, okay? So let's start with some of the types of publicity stunts you may have heard of, and I want you to know very quickly off the bat, this isn't necessarily what I'm talking about. These are some of the things that you tend to think of when you think of publicity stunts, and I'll explain what these are on the screen here in just a second. But I want you to know that you don't have to engineer something that is a massive, huge endeavor. For instance, the one on the left, this was a National Geographic, had a TV show coming out in England, and they wanted to get awareness for it. It was some kind of endangered species type show. So they took this polar bear, they created it, put it on this iceberg, and floated it down the Thames River. They made a photo opportunity by the Parliament building and some of the other landmarks, as you see there in that photo. And it was a big success, and it was a big deal, but it was extraordinarily complicated and expensive. It took something like 3 weeks to build the polar bear. They carved it, they modeled it, carved it, and painted it, and permits and all these things that they had to do. And again, right now I'm saying, hey, that's a great publicity stunt, and it worked, and it was worthwhile. But we don't necessarily have to do things. I don't know if you know this or not, but on the upper right-hand corner, we've got the Olympic torch. Did you know that the Olympic torch was originally a publicity stunt? They haven't always done it. And if you're not familiar with this, you might find it kind of an odd story. It was originally a publicity stunt put on by none other than, drum roll please, Hitler in the 1936 Berlin Olympics. He wanted to get attention to himself, imagine that, and to his country, Germany. And so they went and staged it, filmed it, and broadcast it to the extent possible in those days, newspapers and flyers and all those kinds of things. They didn't have television in circulation, but they went to Athens. They had people in togas lighting the torch and then running, I think it was something like 1,600 miles from Greece to Berlin, and it was a big, huge publicity stunt, and it stuck. I mean, Germany's had some things that have stuck well. The VW, that's worked out pretty well for them, but it was originally a publicity stunt. It seems natural, and we don't even think about it now, but think about it. It gets publicity for the Olympics that are coming up. Even now, when the Olympics come and they're running the torch around the country, and they say, okay, today it's going through Lubbock, Texas, and tomorrow it's going to be in whatever town, and it's interesting. The one on the lower left is Richard Branson, the billionaire who owns all of the Virgin properties. I happen to know about this one you see here because I happened to be in Las Vegas the day it happened, so I happened to see it on local television when I was in the hotel room. And this was him introducing Virgin American Airlines starting to fly into Las Vegas Airport, and he did a stunt where he jumped off a building wearing a harness, and as you can see, the stunt actually backfired a little bit on him, literally, because on the way down, the wind blew him into the building, and he ripped his pants and skinned his butt up on the building. You can see that now that I've pointed it out. You can see the big rip on his trousers. And it was kind of funny, but it got the attention. I was just a passerby in Las Vegas there attending a convention, giving a speech or something, and flipping the local channels on TV that night. I saw this, and it kind of stuck with me, and it made an awareness. I was an outsider and don't even live in Las Vegas, but I went, wow, they fly. They didn't even fly from Dallas, where I live, to Las Vegas, but it made that impact. And you look at that and say, well, if you were to spend that money on advertising to try to get people to know that we've got flights from, I think it was San Francisco or something like that, to Las Vegas, how much money would we spend? How much attention would it get? Would it really make the point? And the alternative was, let's just jump off a building and see what happens, and the news covers it. I mean, think about how much television advertising costs. We were just looking at television advertising for one of our clients in Philadelphia. It's a major market. I think it's about a market number 4 or 5 or 6 or something like that. And on one of the network news, a 30-second commercial is, I believe it was about $2,000 for 30 seconds. Now, it's not the Super Bowl, but it's pretty expensive. And if you were to run enough ads to get any kind of memorable impact on your commercial, yeah, maybe spend that money harnessing yourself up and jumping off a building. Who knows? The one on the lower right is done by Honda. That's an H. They did this skydiving stunt. It was quite elaborate, and it got a lot of media attention also. This is not necessarily what I'm talking about, although if you have the wherewithal to do this kind of stuff, that's fine. But we want to think about a little bit smaller scale stuff that's more realistic for smaller businesses. So it doesn't have to be a mammoth endeavor like some of the things you've heard of and I just showed you. A couple of keys. Make sure your publicity stunt is related to whatever it is you're trying to promote. Otherwise, it's going to be a big waste of time and money. And if you want to verify this, just go to the internet, search publicity stunts. I spent some time online researching for today's webinar. And one of the biggest topics is failed publicity stunts, and you'll see quite a few of those. And they tend to be ones where the product being promoted didn't really have anything to do with the stunt. I mean, look at the National Geographic one. That's a great example of one that did fit well. It was a polar bear. It was on an iceberg. It was in the river. It was very unusual. It got a lot of attention. And when they found out, hey, this is promoting National Geographic's television series on endangered species, people went, oh, that makes perfect sense, and it makes an impact. On another note, when Vodafone put their logo on a naked guy and had him streak across a huge rugby match in Europe, it didn't really work as well. It made the Hall of Fame of crappy publicity stunts that failed. So just think about that before you jump too far in. Think in terms of things that would be newsworthy, things that would make people stop and pay attention. Some stunts can be very small and inexpensive. So let's take a look. This is a very small and inexpensive publicity stunt. This is Mark McGowan. You can just read this on here. He pushed a peanut using his nose. It took him 2 weeks to push this peanut with his nose across London from one particular part of London to the other. He got to the end, and he gave the peanut to Tony Blair. He was protesting his student debt. Now, I don't know why he was trying to publicize his student debt. Don't really care. All I know is when you start pushing a peanut around with your nose, people are going to wonder what you're doing. Then they're going to come talk to you, and you're going to have an opportunity to make some kind of statement. Now, I'm not suggesting that you push a peanut around with your nose. That's absolutely not the point. The point is, what could you do that people would take a look at and say, okay, this is interesting. And the point here really is that it doesn't cost a lot. It costs, Band-Aids and peanuts, and it's not too bad. Okay, so here's a few categories for you to think about as you look at publicity stunts. Number one, a challenge. And I'll go through examples of each of these in just a minute. Call out others in the industry to put your respective wares to the test. So we're going to challenge people within our industry. I'll show you some examples of that. The second one is the giveaway. Give something away in an unexpected way, something that people would look at and say, wow, that's pretty neat. And then the third is the raw spectacle, something plain unexpected and cool to look at. So these are the three main categories. I'm not suggesting that these are the only categories, but they're things you might want to think about. Again, hopefully everything we're talking about is done with the backdrop of, okay, my business, thinking about what you do, and trying to find ways to integrate these types of things, okay? So let's talk about the challenge. You're probably familiar with the Pepsi challenge. This is back from the 70s, maybe the 80s. I can't remember for sure. It's the same kind of thing where you're going to say, well, let's take a challenge. Let's see. Let's prove something. Here's some smaller business versions of the Pepsi challenge. Whoops, went the wrong way. You may remember I wrote an article series about a Korean donut shop taking on Krispy Kreme. it was interesting, and you may want to go search the website. I think you can search Donut Wars is the name of the series. But it was an interesting piece because it chronicles what this Korean donut shop could do, not just as a publicity stunt, but to outmarket Krispy Kreme. And it was a comprehensive plan that culminated with a publicity stunt. So there was a lot of things that went into it, like passing out donuts to local businesses and getting people involved and joining a certain club, and several more traditional, commonsensical type marketing things. But then it culminated with the Korean donut shop making a declaration that they were going to put Krispy Kreme out of business. So this is called a wild declaration. A wild declaration. We're going to put Krispy Kreme out of business. Now, the situation was that this donut shop was about 1.5 miles east of Krispy Kreme on the same major road through town. They were close enough that they were natural rivals for each other. In other words, they were actually fighting for the same geographically based business. And think about this for a minute. If you've got this Korean donut shop and they put the word out that we're going to put Krispy Kreme out of business, this is automatically very interesting because people don't normally talk like that. And here's what I hope you don't lose, and I want you to capture out of this particular story. It really has nothing to do with putting Krispy Kreme out of business. If Krispy Kreme remains in business, the publicity stunt can still be a wild success. So what they can do is put the word out. There was a whole program involved with this where they were going to recruit customers, give them incentives for not shopping at Krispy Kreme, and having them pledge their loyalty to the Korean donut shop and giving them certain advantages and incentives if they would do that, and then literally putting the word out to the local radio, television stations that there's this little Korean donut shop that's going to put Krispy Kreme out of business, and then having a plan, and then ostensibly being interviewed by the news and saying, here's what we're going to do. We're tired of these big chains. We're tired of people flocking. Here's what and here's how we're different, and here's how we're better, and going after them and attacking them. Okay? Marketing Guru Challenge. This is something I thought up for my own business, and I thought up a couple of different things that I could do for my business. I haven't executed these. These are just ideas. There's things that maybe can inspire you, and there are things that maybe I'll dust off when the time is right and appropriate. One of them is the Marketing Guru Challenge. So each of the gurus in the challenge, so a guy like me could say, hey, I know there's other marketing guys out there. I'm going to take them all on. Let's see who's the best. Let's get businesses to volunteer to be guinea pigs, and let these marketing gurus work with these businesses to get them better marketing results. Let's give them a period of 6 months, and let's see what happens. Now, let's just take a couple steps back here. It's very critical in this webinar that you don't take anything too literally, okay? Because what I'm about to say, your immediate reaction might be, well, that's kind of dumb, but don't take it as a literal statement. And here's the statement. Do you see how these things could be made into TV shows? Now, I don't want to have a TV show, but think about the process of documenting this company and how they're going to take Krispy Kreme out. We've taken something boring to the general public, not to you and me, but to the general public, marketing, and we've said, here's this little guy named, Hae-sung Kim, who's going to take out Krispy Kreme, and you could literally create, if not a television show that was produced and run on network or cable television, you could at a bare minimum, what? Document it and create your own documentary. Maybe part of the expenses, you go buy a video camera, or you hire somebody, or you get your brother-in-law or somebody that can work a video camera, and you create it. And you say, okay, here's what we're going to do. And think through it like you were producing a documentary at a bare minimum, or a television show if you wanted to get a little bit more in depth. Think about the documentary. Think about a documentary like, what was that one called? Super Size Me, the guy that ate McDonald's every day for a month. Do you remember that? Did you see that? Was I the only person that watched that movie and thought, I can't believe this guy got famous and made ostensibly a load of money with something that anybody could have done. Any one of us could have gone down, gotten checked out by a doctor, ate at McDonald's every day for a month, filmed it with a video camera, spliced it together, edited it, and made a movie. Anybody could do that. Anybody could do that. You could put it on the internet. It could go viral if it's interesting. I mean, if it's not interesting, nobody's going to want to watch it. But are you kind of getting the idea here? Again, if you're saying, I don't want to eat McDonald's every day for 30 days, or I don't want to take on Krispy Kreme, you're missing the point. The point is, what could you do that you could document? Think in terms of documentary and or television show. Remember, back to Troy Dunn, my friend. Okay? Just think about it. Just think about it. The Marketing Guru Challenge, so we get 10 marketing gurus. We get different companies, and each week we have challenges. It could be a television show. We could eliminate one guru every week and see who is the best guru at the end. Or we could just count raw dollars at the end. Or so, you know, we could come up with any kind of permutation of that, and you probably could do the same thing for your business. We could do a remodeler's challenge. Which remodeler is the best? Let's donate. There's going to be expense involved. How do you account for the money? You put it into your marketing budget. If you spend $100,000 a year in marketing, take 10% of it, allocate it to your remodeler's challenge. Well, how would that work? Well, you go to the newspaper and say, we're a remodeler's challenge. We're going to give away to needy families, to war veterans, right? Whatever. And you'll see this on the giveaway. I'm kind of cross-pollinating some ideas here. But you say, we're going to see who's the best. We're going to see who's the best. Which remodeler is the best? Let's get people. Think about how this works from a documentation standpoint. Either it's documented on television because there's news there, somebody thinks it's interesting, or you document it yourself, you put it on the internet, make some kind of a production out of it. Are you following how this works? What if you did a remodeling challenge and nobody paid any attention, but you did document it with video, you created some sort of a kind of a documentary out of it, and now you put it on your website. The Remodeler Challenge. You went out to challenge 25 other remodelers in your area, and you show yourself on the camera. Okay, I'm putting together the official invitations. I'm going to send these out. Here's how I'm choosing who I'm going to send them out to. I'm going to the best and the brightest, the ones that are spending the most money on advertising, the ones that have the highest end stuff, and here's how the challenge works. I'm going to send out the invitations. Okay, I got 3 people that responded positively. I got 10 people that responded negatively, and I got 15 people that didn't respond at all. And you just document this. I wonder why they won't respond. This guy must be chicken. And then you hold it up and say, oh, look at this. South Lake Remodeling. They said no. They must be chicken. I wonder why they won't participate in the challenge. And you use it to your advantage in whatever way seems fit. Okay. One of the things you want to make sure, you'll see this later on in the webinar, we don't want to make yourself look like a clown, but just think about it. Again, roll with the idea process here. Don't get caught up in the net of the details of what I'm saying. It's very easy to do, and I don't want you to do that. Okay? The Remodeler Challenge. What about the best restaurant in South Lake Challenge? I live in a town called South Lake. It's a suburb of Dallas. So the best restaurant in South Lake. Well, which restaurant is the best restaurant in South Lake? Well, nobody really knows because it's never really been put to the test. Or maybe, South Lake Times Magazine has named one or something like that. But what if we put it to the test? Think of the Pepsi Challenge. And we said, okay, we're going to literally have a challenge where we want the restaurants that think they're the best to come up and go head-to-head against us. You say, well, I don't know how would we pull that off. Well, I'm not going to detail how we could pull it off on this call. I want you to just think about your business. What kind of challenge could you put out there? And then here's just a bunch that I thought up, and I'll just briefly blow through these. Shingle Challenge. You say, well, that sounds boring. Yeah, well, if you're a roofing company, you'd have to deal with things that are relative to your business. And if you're a roofing company and you sell metal roofing, why wouldn't you do a shingle challenge? And you could show how your shingles were tougher and better, and you could have interesting ways to do that, and we'll get to these in a minute. In fact, I'll just hold right there. We'll come back to the shingle challenge later. The blender challenge, we'll come back to that one too later. The chicken challenge. So what's the chicken challenge? Well, what if you're a dentist and you cater to people who are scared chickens, and you say, look, we'll take the biggest chicken and we're going to video and we're going to make a documentary, right? We're going to document people who are scared of going to the dentist, and we're going to document us giving them dental treatments. Wouldn't you be willing to give free dental treatments to 10 chickens if you could video them and put them on your website? Wouldn't that be great? What if you went to the news and said, hey, give us your biggest chicken, whoever it is, whether it's an on-camera person or a staffer or an intern, whoever, we don't care, and we're gonna show how we can cater to the biggest chickens and get media attention. The chicken challenge, the cheapest grocery challenge. They're always talking about, oh, we're the cheapest grocery store. Well, what if you literally documented this and you did this so that it was an interesting, true test? So here's what we do. We go do kind of a man on the street with a video camera, and we say, okay, hey, you, person on the street, come here. I want you to name off 20 things that you normally buy, any random 20 things. We don't care what they are. Name them right now. Oh, well, I buy Cocoa Puffs. I buy Diet Coke. I buy, Pampers. I buy chunky soup. I buy bananas. I buy 2% milk, whatever these things are, right? And you have somebody give you these random things so that it doesn't seem staged, and then you walk down to Tom's. I'm just using the names of the grocery stores in my area. You go down to Tom Thumb, and then you go down to Central Market, then you go down to Kroger's, then you go down to Albertsons, and you buy these things, and you see how much they cost. You say, yeah, everybody's got sales, and they've got their lowest prices on this and that, and their cards and all these gimmicks. But at the end of the day, we're the lowest. And then you do this every week. And there's a store right now called Aldi's. They claim that they're the cheapest. Well, why not prove it? And you could do it in an interesting format. Then you could run commercials on TV that promote your sort of publicity type stunt. Or why not go to the news and say, you know what? Everyone talks about how they're the cheapest. We want to prove it. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a challenge. We want to get your reporter to come and pick 20 items at random or 50 items at random, whatever your people buy, and we'll go to the different stores and see. It would be a very interesting consumer piece. Now, if your name is Aldi's, you'd better hope that you're cheapest, or else you're going to look dumb on the piece. But if you know that you're the cheapest because you're actually the cheapest, why wouldn't you do that? But see, here's what we'd rather do. We'd rather run a commercial as we're the cheapest. Why not get something else involved, a little bit more external credibility? The weight loss challenge. Okay, so you just opened your fitness studio, and you're competing against 24-hour fitness and the yoga studio and blah, 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 all these other things. Why not do a challenge? Hey, let's get your best personal trainer from 24-hour fitness. Let's get this, and make it kind of like The Biggest Loser, but have different facilities. Go to the local newspaper in your town and say, hey, we're going to do a fitness challenge. We're going to see which of these ways is the best to lose weight. And you could even do it without the participation of the various facilities. You could just go recruit 10 people that were fat, wanted to lose weight, and you could say, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to monitor what you eat. We're going to monitor all the external conditions so that we can keep tabs on those and see how they affect the weight loss. But here's what we're going to do. For a 4-week period of time, we're going to send you to the yoga studio. We're going to send you to the weight loss clinic that uses medications. We're going to send you to the personal trainer. We're going to send you to the Pilates or whatever. I don't know what this stuff is. Spin class. Doesn't matter. And let's challenge it. Let's test it. Let's document it. If the news didn't want to get involved, or if the newspaper didn't want to get involved, you could sponsor it and do it yourself. Here's what I'm trying to say. Look for ways to challenge. Now, if you challenge, you better be, confident that you can win. The biggest killer challenge, the mass murder challenge. This is for bug guys, right? Hey, we kill bugs better, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a test. Remember the old demonstration on the commercial in the 70s? The greatest demonstration of all time. It was the off repellent commercial where they took a guy and shoved him in a camping tent full of mosquitoes, and he sat in there with this off on him, and the mosquitoes didn't bite him. It was a very, very powerful demonstration. Why couldn't we do the same thing? Why couldn't we go gather up a bunch of bugs and squirt them with our stuff and our organic stuff versus their chemical, whatever it is, or maybe you're the chemicals and organic says that theirs is better, but it doesn't actually work, whatever the case is, right? Oh, and I just remembered, if you had organic, you could do a raw spectacle of drinking your stuff on camera. That would be interesting, but that's a whole different thought. Okay, so challenge. I think we got a good idea what the challenge is. Let's move on to the giveaway. And you probably know what Publishers Clearinghouse is. This is the same kind of idea. Publishers Clearinghouse giveaway. you realize that Publishers Clearinghouse is just a sneaky way for them to sell magazines, right? Okay. Smaller business versions. Smiles for Life is a friend of mine. Steve Anderson runs this. They do it all over the country with local dentists. You can go in, get your teeth whitened for free, but then you donate money to the dentist, who then gives it to Smiles for Life, who uses it to help children who need it in whatever capacity it goes to. I'm actually not sure if they need dental work or if they're just in handicap situation or whatever, but the money all goes to charity is the point. So Smiles for Life, but it's a good way to get news. And every year when they run this, they also, along with the campaign, they do it, I think, for a week or 2 weeks or for a month or something like that during a certain part of the year. And as a part of that campaign, the participating dentists that do it, they give them very specific instructions on how to invite the media, how to get this covered in the paper, and how to make it interesting for other people to look at. Okay, Smiles for Life. Remodeling for Charity. You've ever seen the TV show, what's that TV show called? Home Makeover? What is it? Extreme Makeover, Home Edition. That's really what that is. It's remodeling for charity, and it's sponsored by Sears and so forth. Why couldn't you do the same thing yourself? Why couldn't you find people in your community that were some kind of a interesting hard luck case? Because that's exactly what they do on that TV show, right? They don't just go in and remodel any bozo's house because the guy didn't feel like paying for it himself. They go find the guy who's had a really heartstring pulling kind of a hard luck case. His kid has got some kind of a disease, or they're blind, or they were in the war and they were injured, or this guy's a teacher and he's worked with, you know, children that are underprivileged, and he hasn't made much money, and now his house is falling apart. Whatever the case is, could you find some kind of a hard luck situation and go in and orchestrate that on your own? And the answer is, yeah, you could, if you would just do it. It takes time and effort, and of course it takes money, but think about how that could benefit your business, something like that. iPad giveaway, I put this on here without any particular specific implementation in mind other than this. Everybody loves iPad. You say, well, I don't love iPad because, you know, I'm like to be against the norm. Okay, well, fine, you're a freak. On the bell curve, you're kind of out there as an outlier. Most people love iPads, and if you were a company, let's say you could go buy an iPad for $600, and if you bought 30 of them, that would cost you 3 times 6, $18,000. I'm not saying you could do this, but if your business had that type of budget available, you go out and buy $18,000 worth of iPads, and you do an iPad a day giveaway in your local community. And you say, look, you go to the local newspaper and say, hey, our restaurant, our fitness club, or whatever is going to give away an iPad a day. And to win the iPad, you have to be there, you have to be present, you have to show up, and we're going to do a drawing. And, of course, you have some kind of ability to give a sales presentation while the people are gathered, and it becomes some kind of an interesting event. I think that there's a lot that can be done with an iPad. Just think about that for a minute. World's Greatest Car Salesman. This is another article that I wrote on how to sell cars. And I talked about how an individual car salesman, not the dealership that he works for, but an individual car salesman can brand himself as the world's greatest car salesman. And I won't detail all the different things that that car salesman would do to indeed earn the moniker of world's greatest car salesman. But one of them was he would take part of the proceeds that he makes from his business and he would use it to fund giveaways to his customers, including weekly things like movie tickets and restaurant gift cards and so forth on a more local, immediate, smaller kind of basis that he would give away via email or text or Facebook or whatever, but then also to fund an annual event for his customers where he would treat them to barbecue, and he would give away a car to one of his current customers. So to win the car, you had to be a current customer. There's different ways you could approach this. Maybe not necessarily a current customer, but that was one of the versions that we had talked about. And it would be very interesting because think about the angle of this story and think about what news people are always looking for. They're looking for interesting angles. And if the angle of this story was that an individual car salesman, not the dealership, not where he worked, but this individual guy was giving away this car, that's kind of interesting. You say, well, I don't know how interesting that is. Well, think about this. This guy calls himself the world's greatest car salesman. This guy has a business card that says world's greatest car salesman. This guy owns all of the major competing models of cars so that you can test drive them. He parks them off-site, drives the customer in the dealership's test vehicle off-site to where he has parked his other competitive brand vehicles and lets the customers drive those while they're testing. I mean, this is an interesting, weird, unusual, media-worthy story. The whole story of World's Greatest Car Salesman is very media-worthy, but it takes a little bit of showmanship. It takes a little bit of flair. You have to actually call yourself the world's greatest car salesman. You have to be willing to draw a little attention to yourself. I'm not saying that's you. I'm not saying you want to do that. I'm just saying think about the principles that I'm talking about. Could you brand yourself as the world's greatest home remodeler? And then you'd have to find ways to back it up. You know, here's my video of my home remodeler challenge. Now I'm going to take it national. I'll take it across the world. I don't know. Think about it. National Frozen Yogurt Day giveaway. You say, well, what the heck is that? Well, this is something that happened just this month here in South Lake where I live. I heard, this is great. This is fantastic, okay? Think about today's world, okay? Today's world is a lot different than the 3 or 5 or certainly 25-year-ago world, because now we have a media outlet called social media. So things can get broadcast over social media that may not be picked up by the national, local, you know, regional news, and it doesn't matter, because I was sitting there and my kids came up to me and said, hey, let's go to Yogurtland today because they're giving away free yogurt. It was a Monday. And I said, what do you mean they're giving away free yogurt? Oh, well, they're giving away free yogurt. Yeah, but like, what do you mean? Well, you show up, they give you a cup, and you get whatever you want, and it's free. And I looked at my kid and I said, that's impossible. That's not how businesses operate. How are they going to make any money? He said, no, I don't know. Let's just go. So I picked up the phone and I called them and I said, are you giving away free yogurt? And they go, yeah. I said, how does it work? They said, well, you come over and we give you a cup and then you get whatever yogurt you want. It's free. I said, well, what if I bring all my kids? I've got 6 kids. They said, well, then everybody gets free yogurt. I said, okay, I'm in. So we go over there. This is a picture I took with my iPhone. It was kind of mobbed. I was very impressed with their ability to control traffic there. As you walked in, they didn't make you beg or ask or have a hidden coupon. As you walked in, there was a girl standing at the door with this big, huge stack of cups. She handed you a cup and said, hey, she said, welcome to Yogurtland. It's National Frozen Yogurt Awareness Day or something. I don't even remember what it was. Please help yourself to any free yogurt you want. So you go over there and against the wall. They got all the different flavors and they got all the toppings. They had all the toppings out. It was exactly like normal if you would have paid for it. I imagine that each of those would probably have been about $3 or $4, maybe closer to $4. And they had guys standing at the cash register, but instead of charging people, they were handing out spoons, and it was just free. Nobody paid for anything. It was all 100% completely free. You couldn't pay if you wanted to. So me, of course, being the marketing guy, being very curious about this, I went over and I started quizzing the girl at the door. I said, well, how many people, I said, have you been here the whole time? It ran from 4 p.m. till 7 p.m., okay? That was the window of time. I said, have you been here the whole time? I was there at about 6:40, so I was very close to the end. She said, I've been here since 4 o'clock. I said, so you've been the person handing out the cups? She said, yes. I said, how many have you handed out, do you think? She said, about 500 to 600. I said, wow, that's a lot. And I said, how many people would normally walk through here on a Monday night? And she kind of laughed. She said, hardly any. Remember, it's February, it's cold, it's frozen yogurt. She said, you know, we would get maybe, you know, 20, 30, 40 people in a evening, maybe, on a Monday night. And it was blown up on Twitter, it was blown up on Facebook, and there was a steady stream of people flowing through that. I said, so is there any kind of restriction? She said, nope, I've given one person 6 cups. They just kept coming through, and I just kept giving it to them. And I thought about it for a minute. I went, wow, this is very interesting. It blew up on Twitter. It blew up on Facebook, social media. Okay, that's how my kids found out about it in the first place. And then And then what? And then they have the ability to post that on their website, whatever, if they want to. But here's the bigger issue is now when I'm going to get yogurt during other times of the year, when I'm ready to pay full price for it, have they made a favorable impression that would make me more likely to want to go there instead of somewhere else? And the answer is absolutely 100% yes, because you know how these yogurt places are. There's like 4,000 of them everywhere. Somebody got the genius idea that we're going to sell yogurt for $5 and make huge profit margins, and it's kind of gotten oversaturated. I know this because I know a guy that operates Red Mango, and he said that when they first moved into one particular town, there was 2 of them. Now there's 9 competitors. So anyway, you get the idea. Interesting stuff. Let's move to the next one, which is the raw spectacle. You know, raw spectacle, small business versions, flamethrower and air cannon. You see that on the page here. This is something that we did for the company that sells metal roofing. And so, okay, what's so great about your metal roofing? Well, it's stronger, more durable, it's flame resistant. So we took flamethrowers and shot the roofing material, then shot the other roofing material, normal roofing material. It melts and burns the normal roofing materials. It's impervious with the metal roofing. And then we took the air cannon, the kind that you shoot hot dogs into the stands at a professional sporting event. And you can cram a baseball in there or a potato in there and shoot it out, and it just completely destroys the regular roofing material, and it barely makes a dent on the metal roofing. It's a very interesting spectacle. But let's now make a road show out of this spectacle. What if we showed up in front of the home show and we started flamethrowing stuff? It's going to make a spectacle. You know, might get you arrested, but it would make a spectacle. Okay, Blend Tech, this is the one at the bottom. You may have seen these videos on YouTube. This is a very interesting case study in viral media, also in demonstrations, also in Publicity Stunts. This is a company that decided it would be fun to create a game show type atmosphere for blending things in their blenders. So they decided to blend iPhones and iPads and glow sticks and Chuck Norris and literally 100 different things over the course of time in their blenders to demonstrate the power of the blender. Now, they could also do a blender challenge like we talked about on the previous slide, but just the raw spectacle of blending things in their blenders is very interesting. And you'll notice if you go look on their YouTube channel for Blend Tech, their videos have 5 to 10 million views each. It's crazy. People are watching that. Okay, stormproof windows. You know, a demonstration at the mall maybe of getting guys and big muscular guys that you pulled out of the gym, put a big tank top on them so their muscles are popping out. You give them crowbar, baseball bat, chains to hit these windows to demonstrate that they don't shatter no matter what. They're stormproof windows, and it's a spectacle. Okay, I don't want to spend a lot of time here. We're kind of getting towards the end, wrapping up, but I want you to think about this whole situation. Things to think about. What kind of budget do you have? You don't have to have a huge budget to pull this off. Some of these that I've talked about required more budget than others. Certainly, if you gave away one iPad, that would be kind of neat. If you gave away 30 iPads, it might be newsworthy. But maybe you can't afford 30 iPads, and that's not the point. The point is just think about what kind of budget do you have. Can you allocate it to marketing? What are the best features of your products or service? Things that you could look at and say, okay, this is what we're going to base our publicity stunt on. Maybe you're a remodeler, but you don't want to have a quality challenge. Maybe you want to have a unique challenge. Maybe you want to see who can remodel something with the most flair. Or maybe you want to do something to see who can do it the fastest because you're the fastest remodeler. And you want to see if you can do a quality job in and out in less than 2 hours or less than 2 days or whatever time frame makes sense. Maybe you're one of those one-day bathroom remodeling guys and you want to prove it, so you put it to the test. You know, you need to look at what you do and what makes you good, what your identity is of your company, and then tailor your publicity stunt around that. Okay? What's the point you're trying to make? What are you trying to prove? Again, that goes part and parcel with what your identity is, but don't lose sight. You don't want to do a stunt just for the sake of a stunt. You want to make a point. Is it related to what you sell? Is it going to make you look like a clown? If you're going to do something that makes you look like a clown, you may want to do something else instead. Sit down with your team and brainstorm this. Be bold, be creative, be courageous, and remember, you'll be able to use this for a long, long time. So this is kind of some things to think about as you look at the topic of publicity stunts. if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to take them. You can ask questions via the question thing on your console. I don't know what to call it, your question thing on your console. I don't know if you have any questions. If you want to ask about your particular business, I'd be happy to discuss it with you. But let's give you just a minute to enter any questions if you have them. Otherwise, we'll be wrapped up for the day. We don't have any webinars next week. I'll be in MYM Live training all week, so that ought to be a lot of fun, and we'll be back the following week. Let's take a quick look at the calendar. Tuesday, March 6th, we'll be on the Tuesday morning ad clinic, and then on the morning of the 8th, that one may get pushed a little bit because of some other plans. So we'll work that out. Any questions? Last chance to ask a question? Anyone? Bueller? Just a quick question. What would you recommend for a payroll company? Jim Story. Okay. Well, I know a little bit about your business, Jim, because we've talked about it. So let's brainstorm this and think about it a little bit. We got a payroll company. It's kind of hopefully you don't take this the wrong way, Jim, but it's a smaller company. It's not some big, huge national deal like ADP or what have you. So we've got that going. It's a local business. So anytime we have a local business, we want to think in terms of local, getting some local attention. So let's see, payroll company. What could we do for a payroll company? Could we do some kind of a challenge? A payroll challenge? Maybe we bet somebody's paycheck. That would be probably illegal. We got challenges. We've got publicity stunts. Could we do something with massive checks? Could you start handing out big, massive checks? Could you put some kind of a bonus in? Let's think about this for a minute. What did you come up with, Jim? You've had the whole webinar to think about your company. I've only had 30 seconds. What did you come up with? Think about it. Give me any ideas that you have. Let me think for a minute. The accuracy challenge. Maybe you could take your competitors. Excuse me. I've reached the point of the webinar where I start coughing and choking. Do some kind of a challenge against your competitors for accuracy. I know that one of the things that you stand for is accuracy. Maybe you could do a challenge. I know one of the things we talked about was you could save a certain amount of money, and the amount of money was not tremendous, but it was also enough that it was worthwhile. So let's say that the amount of money that people could save was an average of $610 a year. So you take 5 $610s and you go out to hold a contest and say, we're going to give away $610 to 5 people. See, this is about a $3,000 deal, right? I'm not saying go spend $3,000. I'm just saying I'm throwing out ideas. And you say, okay, we want to see what people are going to spend $610 on. We're going to get a business owner. We're going to get people that maybe we could buy unusual things, and we could demonstrate what $610 could buy you by actually giving that money to people and seeing what they did with it. And then we publish that, again, on the website through, social media. How about choosing a business and adding a bonus to every check for free? Yeah, that would be interesting. So this now runs on the news, right? Hey, the employees of XYZ construction business were surprised this morning when they opened their paychecks and found an extra, whatever amount of money. And then this runs on the news. But you're going to be a little bit careful, but I like the way you're thinking, Rich Soraka, who gave that suggestion, okay? Here's the idea, right? Look on the screen right now. Sit down with your team and brainstorm. Be bold, creative, and courageous. Remember, you'll be able to use this for a long time. Think about what is the features that you want to promote. What kind of budget do you have? What's the point that you want to make? Is it related to what you sell? And we don't want to look like a clown. So I know it's just kind of quick, Jim, but think through that a little bit. Anyone else want to ask a question? Probably not, since it hasn't been asked already. Okay, we'll go ahead and wrap up today. Thanks for participating. It's kind of a fun topic, more of a thought spur type of a topic, so sit down and think about it. If you'd like to come up with some ideas and email them over to me for a review, I'd be happy to look at them, okay? Is it bad to challenge your customers? No. No. Hey, Josh, how you doing? Is it bad to challenge your customers I'm not sure what kind of challenge to your customers you might have out there, but yeah, you could work for your customers and say, I know one of the things you did was create some kind of fun types of trophies that they could potentially have. We can engrave anything you bring to us. Okay, bring us, your strangest thing. Maybe you could create some big, huge, weird trophy. I mean, you're in the trophy business, so you could create all kinds of weird trophies. Just start looking around town. What if you became the official sponsor of everything that was the best? So going back to our local town here, and I know this may not necessarily work in terms of you being not necessarily a super local business. I don't know. But what if you started to make awards that you handed out on your own behalf? So you became the sponsor of the Best Restaurant in Southlake Award and the Best Daycare in Southlake Award, and you put together some kind of person that you hired. Maybe it's just an intern. It doesn't have to be some big expensive thing, but you went out and researched, and you polled customers of those businesses, and then you awarded a big butt-honking trophy, right? And you could create something that was very large and ostentatious almost looking that says, hey, we got an award, and you could start to make those awards. I don't know. Think about what you could do with awards. It would be very interesting. Be very interesting. Maybe you take some of the more well-known businesses in the community and you said, hey, we're going to award you well, think about this. What if you could put together some kind of a poll, and let's say that there were, let's think about it, 5 of any particular kind of company, 5 hamburger stores. So like in Southlake here, we've got Fat Daddy's and Five Guys and Johnny B's and Steak and Shake. These are ones that all kind of compete in that same space for the kind of old-style diner burger that's super good. Mooyah's is one of them. And what if you went out and polled these guys and you created a big trophy, and you put that trophy, you actually presented that trophy. But see, here's the funny thing. You could present different trophies to all of them, right? So Five Guys wins the best French fries trophy. Mooyah's wins the best hamburger trophy. And Fat Daddy's wins the best diner experience trophy or the best toppings for burger trophy. And you present these to all of these companies. Well, what are they going to do with that trophy? You think they're going to throw it away? No, they're going to stick it there. And, of course, it says compliments of Trophy Mart, trophies for every occasion. I don't know, just thinking about ways to get out there and do things that are a little bit interesting, a little bit different, a little bit unique. What if you went to the local magazine? Again, Josh, I know this is not necessarily appropriate to exactly what you're saying, but I'm just thinking in terms of some of the things we went through today. You went to the local magazine and said, hey, we're going to host this contest for the best burger joints, and we're going to make these available, and now it's getting some media attention that way. But challenging your customers, absolutely, having them bring stuff, making documentaries that you can then post online. Think about it. It's interesting, and it's a good idea. So, yeah, if you've got some specific ideas, send them over to me. I'd be happy to discuss them with you. It's kind of a fun topic. Have some fun, for crying out loud, for a change in your business, okay? That's it. That's what we got time for today, and we'll talk to you next time. Have a great week next week while you're off. Hopefully you take some time to download and listen to some past webinars and get some more marketing ideas, and we'll be back with you in a couple weeks. Thanks so much. Talk to you later. Bye now.
The organizer has ended.